Alright, welcome to today's video here. I'm in Hyde Park today, just got a couple of hours spare, so I thought it would be really good if we just did a recap of 2020, the end of, and also 2021. Because it's funny, isn't it, how not just me, I mean I took a lot of heat throughout this year, all of 2021, about a lot of my forecasts and things I was saying, and you know, some of the attacks, goodness me, that I got this year was crazy. But actually, if we go over now and do a little recap of all the things that we've been talking about, and again, I say we because you as subscribers have really helped this channel this year to help direct the content. You've helped with my thinking, my thoughts, sending me research pieces. And it's just amazing how many of you have said, you know, you've been ostracized by friends and family for just some of the theories that we've all had and the thoughts that we've had this year, and how badly we've been attacked with these thoughts. And yet, if you look at them, about 95% have actually come true now. I'm not going to talk about COVID very much because I don't really want to get into it, but I will say one point on it. Do you remember a year ago when I got banned from YouTube for even talking about COVID passes and passports, and that I was a massive conspiracy theorist for even suggesting this you know, horrible thing, and that it would take away people's freedoms and it would never happen? And yet look where we are today. Just last night I tried to go to a venue and they asked for my COVID pass here in Hyde Park, actually, the Winter Wonderland. So there you go. I haven't got a COVID pass. I don't intend to get a COVID passport. So, you know, I've experienced it myself. And these were conspiracy theories only a year ago, just like a lot of other things which are now actual fact. So let's start with the first point I talked about over probably 18 months ago now. And that was the small businesses and medium-sized businesses and how they would be the worst affected by all of this. And what have we seen just walking around London? You've seen these videos walking around. The businesses here have been absolutely destroyed. I've never seen, yes. Now the reason you don't notice a lot of it is because a lot of people who live in London, when you're in something, you don't actually notice it. You know, it's a bit like when people say, oh, have you lost weight or something like that. You don't really notice sometimes when these things are happening, but other people do notice these things. But just walking around then, I'm amazed at the amount of business closures here. And again, the reason you're not noticing so many of them is because there's so many new businesses, new entrepreneurs that have actually opened up businesses. So that's one reason. And this is going to continue. It's not going to get better. It's actually going to get worse with these small business closures. Because if you think how much, and I did this calculation last year, if you think how much debt a lot of businesses have taken on now, especially in hospitality and retail, and you think about the margins, sometimes the margins in coffee shops, for example, are only 10%, something around that range. And with these loans that have been allowed for small businesses to take on from the big banks, of course, if you think about the sort of debt leverage coverage ratio they've been allowed, some of them it's going to take them 10 to 15 years to pay off some of these loans. So you will see more collapses in the future with a lot more small businesses. But of course, government likes big business, which doesn't make any sense at all, because 60 to 70% of employees are actually employed by SMEs, which are your small to medium-sized enterprises. So it doesn't really make much sense, especially as the big businesses don't pay anywhere near as much tax either. So it's crazy, really. And of course, if you remember as well, when I was talking about deflation, I said we'd see stagflation eventually. So again, you're going back 2 years now. I know this is a long way back, but I talked about we'd see deflation first in the travel, tourism, hospitality sector because of the lack of demand. So you've got an increased supply, but you've got a lack of demand. So of course you're going to see deflation in these prices. But then I said we'd move into a period of high inflation due to everything that's going on. And I find it bizarre that no one really understands or realizes that you give people all this stimulus and furlough and all these payments to stay at home and not do anything productive. Well, you're not producing anything towards GDP, gross domestic product. Okay, there's no products and services being produced under those circumstances, but yet people are still consuming at an alarming rate. So it doesn't make sense from an economical perspective that we would see this huge amount of growth in the economy, this massive rebound, when there actually hasn't been any, which of course is the only way that can happen is via currency creation. So the government issuing bonds, the central banks buying the bonds, doing your swaps or mortgage-backed securities, etc., with the commercial banks. Why do you think that the Fed, for example, or the central banks are owning so many people's mortgages now? It is worrying. It's very disturbing to me to see these trends occurring. Another thing that I think we all took some heat over was when I did the Great Reset video and I talked about mass migration and how we'd see this crisis occur in terms of migration or mass migration from poorer countries into wealthier countries. Again, people said this would never happen, stop spreading all this malicious, whatever. And yet, look what we're seeing on most, major borders from wealthy countries now. You've got it on the southern border, you have a crisis there in the United States. And then you have in the EU, so the Polish border, if you remember the video I created there, the Polish border crisis with Belarus, Lithuania, I think it was Latvia as well, with all of those people that came in trying to cross the border there. It was a pretty crazy situation, but I think this is going to continue. We're going to see a lot more of this. And of course, this ties in with the amount of division we're seeing now. It doesn't help that the media is creating most of this division. We don't really have much centralist media anymore. It's very divided. You have, your right-wing media, you have your left-wing media. There isn't really much in the middle now. And I think this is really dividing people between different camps. And it doesn't help when you see things like, when I showed CNN were broadcasting at the border and they were saying, oh, these poor people with, babies and women, they just want to get in, let them into Europe, and there's thousands of people there. Look, I'm not against letting in migrants at all. Okay, I just want to be clear on that. Because again, I've done the studies, I've read history, and it does help the economy when you allow certain migration into the country. But that wasn't my issue with that situation. My issue was, you see their coverage and everyone was sat there and very calm and very polite. But actually, when you see the real coverage of that scenario, the people were attacking the police, the security forces. Some of the soldiers ended up in hospital. It was really, really intense. So the thing is, you don't know who some of the people are that are trying to cross into the borders. Okay, we have no idea. So now people try and make out like you're a racist or things like that. If you even suggest sort of border controls and things like that, it's not. It's just sensible. A lot of the politicians who go on about borders and things like that, no walls, etc., no fences, they live in some of the most high security places imaginable with huge walls and fences. So it's just hypocrisy really for everyone else. A couple of other things I was talking about then were more on the tech side, so AI, robotics, chips, etc. And I was saying how we're going to see a lot more AI coming into the front here now, a lot more robotics taking people's jobs alongside AI. And even, I've got to be honest, this has even taken me by surprise with the speed that this has occurred. I didn't expect it to occur this quickly, taking up a lot of jobs. But at the same time, it's creating a lot of jobs. I didn't expect it to create this amount of jobs. And again, we're seeing this mass jobs crisis. This major issue with a lot of people not wanting to work. But what they're not saying is that actually a lot of people can't work. If you look at a lot of these new jobs that are being created, they are highly skilled tech jobs. A lot of them, not all, but a lot of them are highly skilled tech jobs. A lot of people just don't have the qualifications to do these jobs. And yeah, it's fine for the government to say, oh, we'll take someone that worked in a hotel and reskill them in, technology and IT and stuff like that. It doesn't work like that, right? Some people just, they don't have that, it's nothing to do with intelligence, okay? It's more to do with the mindset around what you want to do. Like for me, I know I don't enjoy certain tasks, so I could never do certain tasks that I just don't enjoy full time. It would just be soul destroying for me. Now, if someone's quite artistic, and then you want to put them into a mundane, monotonous job, that would not work for them. So you've got to really look at the bigger picture here with all of this. And you remember I talked about the chip shortages and how they're building these factories now in Arizona where they're going to have a drought in the future. This is just common sense. Why they're building there, I still don't know. I still haven't got those answers. It makes absolutely no sense. But I remember I was talking about these chip shortages, how it would lead to increased car prices and consumer electronics. People said, no, it won't. And you had other people saying, all the inventory is on people's driveways, all these cars, and people don't need to buy more cars, so the price of cars will go down, right? This very famous person said that. At the same time, she said, oil will never hit $80 a barrel again. And I said, this stuff is nonsense. I don't know why some of these people are so famous and they get so much media coverage making statements like this. Or like, some of the other Nobel Prize winning economists as well that I've been talking about lately. I don't understand what's going on. Either they are completely out of touch, like they've completely lost touch, or they're paid opposition or something. It makes no logical sense. And this is one of the challenges I find myself in day to day now, is that I just feel like I'm living in a world where no one is thinking. No one is applying logic and common sense to everything we're doing on a day-to-day basis. It's crazy, and it's funny when I listen to people who think they're very intelligent, highly educated. And yes, they are in certain fields, but they have very little common sense. A lot of the people that I've been speaking to lately don't question anything. They're not asking any questions, even when, they're being lied to on certain things over and over again. They're not challenging any of it, not looking at any of the facts. It's a crazy world we're living in now. And of course, I've got to mention the supply chain issues. Again, that was another thing we talked a lot about, how the supply chain issues would go on to cause more inflation, but also just problems with businesses and higher shipping costs and things like that. Of course, this has all come to pass now. And you remember how they said, again, conspiracy to say we're going to have high inflation. No, this is just common sense. You just got to read economics history, and when you create all this new currency, you're going to have higher inflation. And you've seen the meme going around, 40% of all the dollars in the world were printed in the last 12 months. Well, why didn't you have 40% inflation or hyperinflation? Not quite hyper, but very high inflation. Well, it's because they've exported all of these dollars. That's why the dollars have been exported. There's there's other reasons as well. There's a lot that goes into it. But again, it's just, I don't know. I don't know what to say about all these economists that come out with all this stuff. No, there's no inflation. It's only 4%. No, they've manipulated the CPI figures. That's what they've done. And these supply chain issues, they're going to take a long time to correct. They're not just going to fix themselves overnight. You're still looking at least another year, if not 2 years, before a lot of these supply chain issues actually get rectified. This isn't a long, ongoing process. So I think it's been a really bizarre last year, 18 months. I'm fairly happy with all the forecasts that I've made and that a lot of you have helped me with on the channel. I do believe we've been very accurate, about 95% accurate on most things. There was a couple of things we were short on, like actually one major thing, but that was it really, on the housing market. But the housing market is still in a hyper bubble, being kept up by a shortage of inventory and low interest rates. As soon as these things reverse, you're going to see a massive correction in the housing market. It's just a matter of time. You can't time these things. Quantitative easing is ending, asset purchases are ending, interest rates will have to touch up a little bit, but how they're going to do that is another matter, because they really can't. So they're in a massive trap. We're going to see some crises. I think 2022 is the year of issues and crises, so we'll review this again at the end of 2022 and let's see. But I think 22 is going to be the year of issues, which is why I'm going to be getting out of the UK over the next couple of months. It's not going to be a place I want to be in with all the stuff that's going to be happening. So thanks so much for watching. Please click the like button, share this video with a friend, someone you think needs to see it, subscribe if you haven't already, and apart from that, take care, God bless, and I'll see you very soon.